It's not enough to just survive something, right? Like, that's not the point of life. You've got to thrive. You've got to feel happy.
It's been 3 years since Meghan Markle told the world it's not enough just to survive. You've got to thrive. And 3 years since they announced Megxit, it's utterly clear who is surviving and who is thriving, and why it's Meghan Markle and Prince Harry who are struggling under the weight of their own narcissism and self-delusions, as they've been called out time and time again, now even by a Spotify executive, for being lazy grifters. This couple is in serious, huge trouble when it comes to Hollywood, and this problem isn't going to go away anytime soon. So we're going to talk a little bit about the Trooping the Color that happened earlier on Saturday, and then also just the epic cratering nuclear disaster that is Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's deals right now, because they are in dire straits. Regardless of what some of their friends in the media are trying to tell you, this is epically bad for them. Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany and I provide compelling royal commentary on this channel, so if you're interested in that, feel free to hit that subscribe button. I also talk a bit about history too, and sometimes television shows and movies, so I would absolutely love to have you back. And today when I'm filming this, it is Saturday and it was Trooping the Color. This is the King's birthday celebration. Obviously last year it was the Queen's birthday celebration, and this is an opportunity for the military to show the monarch how much they mean to them, and it's an official birthday celebration. So we saw all the working royals and some of the minor royals actually a bit in the background. So we saw the Waleses clan, Camilla, Princess Anne, Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, I almost said the Countess of Wessex, her husband Prince Edward, and obviously the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester and the Duke of Kent. So many royals. So go ahead and check out a little bit of these clips here. right, guys, I have to say though, there were a couple favorite moments. One of them was Princess Charlotte grabbing her dad's hands and pulling them around her. So go take a watch with this little clip here. And then we also have Prince Louis. He is saluting and he continues to salute until William tells him, come on, bud, we gotta move, stop saluting. It's very cute. So go ahead and take a watch here. All right, guys, it was an amazing day. I was actually planning on being at Trooping the Color this year, but because of everything else going on, it just didn't seem right to spend. I was going to spend about a month in Europe, but it just didn't seem to work out, and I think that's perfectly fine. But it looked like it was an incredible celebration. We saw Catherine and a new designer for her. Although I'm not... I would normally say that I would not be a fan of this look, but I actually do really like it. I love the super bright green. I love the accents with the sapphires. I think it actually really, really works. It could be almost garish, but I actually think it comes together really, really well. I feel like Catherine looks absolutely fabulous in this piece, and I think it really is highlighting her center role, basically. She is the Princess of Wales. She is the future queen, and she has taken last year one step closer to that ultimate role. So her and William are definitely stepping up here, and their children are just absolutely adorable. So wonderful to see them and the rest of the royals. I am bummed Charles limited the major balcony appearance to just the working royals. I hope maybe that changes next year. I understand him wanting to slim down a bit and maybe exclude perhaps the extended Gloucester and Kent clans. And instead, I would love though to see him have his nieces and nephews up there and their children, because I just think it's funner when you have more people up there. The kids are interacting. We've gotten some really, really classical moments, and so I'm really hoping maybe next year they go ahead and change that up. Maybe they're just doing this time because it's Charles's first Trooping the Color, but it looked rather sparse on the balcony this year. And just looking at Catherine overall, she is clearly thriving in this new role. She was center stage. She looked like the future queen. She also has a huge project with the early years, and she's funding research into developing more information about how babies interact and how they are developing. And it's just such an important project. And so Catherine, even though not saying royal life can't be stifling, it is. Your life is very regimented. Every year for Trooping the Color, you must be out there looking impeccable. Regardless of how you're feeling that morning, you must come out, you must look great, you must wave to the crowd. It sounds perhaps easy, but imagine just mindless small talk all the time. That's what royals do. They have to make everybody feel wanted and included and make sure that everybody feels heard. That's not an easy role. So go ahead and take a watch of a little bit of video I got. So I actually have met Catherine, the Princess of Wales, very briefly. I didn't really exchange many words with her, but she was very, very sweet. And so go ahead and take a listen to her chatting with some other people around me here.
What are you going to do when we're here? Do you know? You'll work it out. But it's really good. It's so nice to see all the funding starting to go up, and yeah, everything's starting. Yeah, I am absolutely slightly nervous as well. There's a lot. Hi, very nice to meet you. Hope you enjoy it. I was just saying, make sure you find yourself an umbrella because it might rain over the weekend. Yeah, it's just only in the best of British way. Yes, if you can manage to.
Okay, she is absolutely lovely, and she has taken this role, which is not really, you could say, a very great role in some ways. There's a lot of restrictions. Her life is very much not within her control, and yet at the same time, she seems to love and thrive in every minute of this royal life, and the benefits far outweigh the limitations if you have a positive thought process on it. You get to wear tiaras and priceless jewelry. You get to do foreign tours around the world. You get to meet dignitaries. People are so excited to see you every time. Even A-listers gasp in shock and are just totally Twitter-pated when they see you because you are royalty. There's only so many people who can say they are royalty. And of course, Meghan Markle, she decided to take this royal life that she had in the UK and she was going to transplant it to Los Angeles so she could control it, that she can manage it, that she can make this royal thing, twist it and make it work for her. But unfortunately, that hasn't worked out in the slightest. In fact, for Meghan and Harry, it could not be more of an epic disaster area for them. Every time they step out, it seems like they step on another landmine. And this week has been no exception, with Spotify dropping them. I did a whole video discussing the Spotify drop, and this is massive, guys. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody, not trying to overestimate this. This is huge because they were dropped from Spotify after they ended their contract and everybody decided to go their separate ways. They had what they wanted. They decided they didn't work well together. Oh, no, no, no. They were dropped for not fulfilling their contractual obligations. They weren't doing enough content. They were difficult to work for. And then we also have this little bit about Prince Harry. Apparently, Dan Simmons, who's one of the executives at Spotify, was trying to work with him on a podcast, and it did not go well. So go ahead and take a listen to this little bitty clip here. And I believe there's some language there as well. So just FYI for little ears.
Wish I had been involved in the Meghan and Harry leave Spotify negotiation. The grifters. That's the podcast we should have launched with them. I got to get drunk one night and tell the story of the Zoom I had with Harry to try to help him with a podcast idea. Do it. It's one of my best stories.
Okay, so I listened to that and I'm like, ooh, ouch. And one of the things that I find so funny about Prince Harry is that he's desperate for everybody to think he's not as dim as the media portrayed him to be, but I think he actually is very, very thick. He's not a smart guy. And you get the impression even in that little bit that the guy was trying to get Harry to agree to something, trying to mine Harry for ideas and thoughts. And at the end, he was just like, oh gosh, this guy, dumb as a plank. What are we gonna do with him? He can't do anything, because you think about it, Prince Harry didn't produce anything for Spotify except for one single holiday episode. Him and Meghan, you got to remember, we're on a little promotional clip for Spotify. So go ahead and take a watch of this here.
We created Archwell Audio to make sure that we can elevate voices that maybe aren't being heard and hear people's stories.
And the biggest part of this is trying to create this community of where you can share. We'll encourage everybody else to then share their own vulnerabilities within that safe.
So they did that years ago now, and yet the only thing they can produce is 12 episodes of Archetypes, something that cratered after a while on Spotify's list, did not hold an audience. If you watch, I actually went through and pulled all the screenshots I did at the time of where Archetypes was ranking, and if you go every week, the new episode debuted lower and lower and lower on the ranks, and that's because it wasn't interesting. People stopped caring. People tuned out. There's a reason they canceled Harry and Meghan. And it's strange because you get some instances where some groups are trying to say, well, no, they have more of a chance somewhere. So go ahead and take a listen to this little bit from Newsweek, because I was like, what are you guys talking about? Because of this epic disaster, because they haven't been able to fill their contractual obligations, Harry and Meghan were dropped. So their ability to get more and better deals on the market has been severely limited, because if you can't fulfill the basics of your contract, nobody else is really going to take a huge risk or pay you the big bucks, because you weren't able to do it the first time. So can you do it this time? So it says, with the lessons learned and experience that Harry and Meghan would have gained at Spotify, they are now in a stronger position to make their own content on their own terms if there is less financial pressure and more laissez-faire targets to hit. Are you joking me right now? So you don't have financial incentives, you don't have targets to hit now, so you're just gonna basically wing it? Is that what you're telling us? Because if you are a business, you not only want to meet your targets, you want to exceed them. If my video doesn't do quite as well as I want it to do, it's frustrating because I'm like, oh, what can I do to do better? What went wrong? Did I not use the right thumbnail? Was it not the right title? What is the issue here. And clearly, sometimes I don't know, sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I got to that video a bit too late. That happens. But Harry and Meghan here, they have a severe issue, is that you can't have a laissez-faire attitude. If you want to have a laissez-faire attitude, guess what? People aren't going to pay you. The laissez-faire salary is a lot less than the hardworking, diligent, passionate salary. And he actually, this person they interviewed, he's some sort of executive in the entertainment industry. He also went on to say this. However, for the couple, a break with one of their two biggest media partners, the Sussexes also signed a content creation deal with Netflix in 2020, will not be without disappointment and could even prove detrimental in terms of the fees they could command. Future deals of this kind for Harry and Meghan will be hard to come by with a lower fee to mitigate any risk. Bosses will think twice about the total deal cost to ensure it makes business sense. So that doesn't bode well for them in the slightest. You don't want somebody to go, I'm not sure if I can approach you and sign you and know that you'll actually hit and do what you're supposed to do on your end. And so why should we fund you? They will not get a $20 million deal from another podcasting agency, although I think Meghan wants a similar deal. They'll get maybe 10, 5. They'll be like, okay, well, we'll do one thing, but we're not giving you guys basically a blank check, which is what Netflix and Spotify did to their mismanagement, to their lack of business dealing. They just gave Harry and Meghan a blank check for the sole reason that they were royals. And that I think Meghan is very good at selling them herself, selling Harry, selling their vision for their life and everything. But when it came to actually pulling it off, and I've actually said this in videos, I don't think she can. And so you're coming to this point where things are just going epic disastrously, and Spotify, even though they tried to massage it a bit, they cut ties. They basically said in some of those articles, there's 4 big ones. So Wall Street Journal, which broke it, Deadline, Variety, and Hollywood Reporter, that they were not going to get the full payout of their contract. I think at the most, I said 2 to 5 million. They could maybe get as high as 10, but that's still pushing it because all they had after 2.5 years was 13 episodes and 1 little itty bitty trailer. That's all they had, maybe 2 if there was an Archetypes trailer. I mean, that's such a lack of content. And it's, I'm sure, warning signs to others in the industry that, hey, these people cannot be trusted. And it gets worse in a Telegraph piece, because this was a quote from the Telegraph. Harry and Meghan are also said to be dividing into projects that are in the early phases, but not connected to Netflix or Spotify, and also focusing on their charitable work with the Archwell Foundation. Because as a business, what you want to know is that the people you're paying upwards of $120 million for content are working out something out of your scope. That's what you want to hear. That's great, right? That's horrendous on Harry and Meghan's part to be doing something like that. It's such a betrayal of the trust of people who they are supposed to be supporting, that they are doing their own thing on the side. And it also screams that, hey, it doesn't sound like the Netflix deal is going well either. And you have to think they had one smash with the Harry and Meghan documentary, which was the only thing I'm sure Netflix knew would make money. The next thing they did, Live to Lead, wasn't even a blip on the radar. And I think Simmons was so correct when he said they are lazy grifters. So Meghan Markle made the huge mistake when it came to Hollywood. She believed that her title meant that she didn't have to do much and people would just pay her money. She is, I don't want to say an influencer in that way, because a lot of influencers do work very hard. You could call me an influencer, and I would say I work very hard. There's times where I do try to take a little bit of a break, but I work pretty much 7 days a week, and it's at different times. Sometimes I stay up really late to get content. Sometimes I get up early to get content. Watching the coronation, actually being down there on the mile for the coronation, that was not an easy feat. You were there. I was there at 5 a.m. standing on my feet, and then it started raining, and then it didn't stop raining, and I couldn't really see anything. We had a bunch of cops in our way. It was very frustrating. You got the crowd pressing in. It's not really a hugely fun thing. Now, I got my great pictures and I was super proud of those, but at the same time, I'm telling you right now, it's a tough gig. You get somewhere early, you stand for hours and hope and hope and hope you see something. That is what I've learned through this royal process. And I've gotten lucky a couple of times. Like I said, I got a selfie with Catherine, the Princess of Wales, but a lot of it was hard work and luck. I was there 4 hours before pretty much everybody else. There was a handful of people already there, only 2 other people. So I was there brand spanking early for the hope that maybe, just maybe, I might see Catherine and William, and I got a great spot. But that's what I think Harry and Meghan are missing here. Meghan Markle, she talks about thriving and surviving. Do you know how you thrive? You work hard at it. You don't take breaks when you would like to. You work through adversity. You don't just go, lift up your hands and go, well, this is too hard, I'm leaving. That's not thriving. That is abandonment. That's cowardice. And Harry and Meghan, to me, are cowards. They're lazy. And I don't think they want to work very hard, and they just expect people to give them money and freebies. And unfortunately, that's not how Hollywood works. Even though in a lot of respects, you could say that the Kardashians are lazy, but they also work their bums off too. I mean, obviously they have help from the plastic surgeons, but they do a ton of interviews. They let people into their lives. They work all the time. They do photo shoots constantly. They're constantly pushing themselves. And all Harry and Meghan do is apparently sit their bums in their houses and do nothing. I've asked this a couple times recently. What do those 2 of them do all day? What do they do? I don't know, because you don't have anything to show for it. Here's the thing. You can have a great many ideas, but you actually have to bring them to the forefront. And surviving, to me, is what Harry and Meghan are doing right now, because they're in an absolute panic. If they're not, they should be. They should be absolutely in full-on panic mode right now, because they will not get the money they were hoping for. They probably won't fulfill their contracts with either Netflix or Spotify. So that means potentially missing out on $50 million. And they only have themselves to blame. They can't blame Netflix. They can't blame Spotify. Perhaps both of those were difficult to work for, but that's what you signed up for. You gave them a pound of flesh in order to get dividends in return. And in order to do that, you have to actually work for it. But Meghan Markle has always been in survival mode, in that she does the bare basics and hopes somebody gives her something in return. One of the most interesting bits I found in Tom Bower's book about Harry and Meghan is that he talked about how a theater professor, now you can take this for what you will, told Meghan, hey, you have some talent here. You can be better at this acting thing, but you need to work on the stage. You need to do theater for a while. But Meghan didn't want to do that. She didn't want to work on her craft. That's why she was a bad actress. She's not a good actress. She's a bad actress because she didn't want to work at it. She just wanted to do the bare basics. She thought she was pretty and that she could do it, and she didn't have to do anything to make herself charismatic, to work hard, to make herself even a character actress, something like that. So when she met Harry, it was very fortuitous. She was looking for someone because I don't know if she was conscious of it or not, but she was nearing 40. Once you hit 40 in the entertainment industry, you're considered old. And while she may still have most of her looks, unfortunately at some point, you can't play the pretty hot young thing anymore. You need to be able to act. And if you can't act, you're not going to get roles. And if you're not getting roles, you can't work. And so Meghan wanted to take the shortcut out of that by marrying Harry. And then she thought, okay, so I have Harry. I've created this massive woe is me narrative in the media, and the media is buying it. They're buying it. And so it's like, okay, so let's go to Hollywood. I'll get all these people to sign me that didn't before, and I'll come back out and I'll be Meghan, the Duchess of Sussex, and everybody will worship at me, and they'll just give me things, and I don't have to work that hard, and I can do my little projects here and there, and nobody's gonna ask for anything more. But Spotify's like, no. We need more content. We are signing you for $20 million. So basically, let's average this out real quick, because I think this is important. What is it, like $1 million per episode for what they produce? Let me do the math here real quick. So Spotify spent $1.5 million per episode on their podcasts if they paid out the full $20 million. That's abysmal. That is abysmal return on investment. And obviously they didn't get the full amount. We're not sure exactly how much Harry and Meghan got out of it. They said they're okay with what they got. I'm like, but how could you be? If you didn't get the 20 million, what did you get? 10, 5, maybe 15 if you were really lucky? but you didn't get the full 20. You're not signed again. And here's the thing too, the next business is only gonna sign you for 10 or 5 because they're not gonna invest the full 20 because they've heard from Spotify that they can't count on you to do your job. And so because of that, they're not going to give you the benefit of the doubt. Harry and Meghan, when they initially went to Hollywood, they had everybody, I think, at their feet. They were rather fascinated. And again, you could say that Meghan, although I don't think she had a great reputation in the entertainment industry, she was still very much an unknown. And I'm sure they saw her episodes and were like, well, she's not great, but she had this Tig thing. She did marry Harry. Maybe this will be interesting. And so they took a leap. And what they found out is that they're not getting their return on investment. And so in that instance, Harry and Meghan had a small window, a year or two, to make dividends on these relationships. They had a year or two to show Netflix and Spotify and the rest of Hollywood that they were worth the investment. But as it turns out, they're not. And it took them way too long to get content together. I do these videos in sometimes hours. I'll film a video, I'll sit down, I'll edit it, and I'll get it up. I did that with the Spotify, Harry and Meghan being dropped by Spotify. I'll edit this one tonight and get it ready for tomorrow morning probably. So that would be Sunday morning. And so that requires a lot of work and effort. Harry and Meghan aren't doing that. And we've already seen this begin to happen, is that Harry and Meghan aren't thriving. They're now in survival mode because Spotify dropped them. Netflix is probably going to. I don't think they'll get picked up by Apple or Audible from Amazon. They may, but again, they won't get the same level of deal. They'll probably get cut in half at least. They won't get the same level of deal. And if the ideas aren't good, like Pearl was already canceled, and Meghan is dedicated, like she's still trying to farm out archetypes. And Spotify, I'm sure, was like telling her constantly it didn't work. It went okay, we promoted it, we put it at #1, even though we all knew it wasn't #1. We could tell you that. We're looking at the analytics here showing that most people dropped off after the first 5 minutes. And so we can't continue to fund this project because it's pointless. Nobody was investing in it. And Meghan, I think, was just hammering home again and again, well, we have more episodes, it's good, let's go, let's go. And Spotify's like, from a business perspective, it does not make sense to move this forward. And Meghan Markle just could not understand that because she is so invested in her own narcissistic delusional bubble. She cannot see truth. And I'd be curious if William & Morris and Endeavor knew that they were about to lose a Spotify and Netflix deal before they signed them or signed Meghan. I wonder if they knew that. And when it comes to survival, Harry and Meghan, as their dividends decrease, they may have to sell their house. They may have to downsize their life. They may have to make radical changes that they probably don't want to make. And because they've lived this very garish, outlandish lifestyle, every time we see Meghan, she's in thousands of dollars of new clothes pretty much every single time, new purses and everything. And what if that gravy train is coming to an end, which I think it is? How fast will they go through money? I've always thought they were burning through their money. And so that's just gonna get worse. They pay for a ridiculous amount of security. I'm sorry, but they don't need that level. I'm sure she can go around Montecito without a chauffeured SUV going around all the time. I think she'd be most likely fine. There might be a couple instances where somebody tells her, which I think is what truly offends her, when somebody goes, you know what, I don't really like what you've done to the royal family. I think Meghan, when she hears that, she just gets enraged inside her head. I think it's just so, she probably gets so angry and twisted and rage-filled because somebody has the gall to tell her, you know what, I just don't agree with what you've done. I think that's what Meghan lives in fear of, because she even mentioned in the documentary that somebody told her that they didn't like what she did to her father, and she was horrendously offended by that, to the extent that she had to mention it and not just brush it off. And so they will be in this mode where they're constantly trying to figure out what to do. And that could make them potentially more dangerous to the royal family because they'll have to trade more and more to gain the attention and money that they need in order to fund themselves. So this survival mode that they're in now will be potentially bad for the royal family. And yet at the same time, it could also be somewhat good, because the more radical I think Harry and Meghan become in terms of their storytelling, because I think one of the risks always with Harry and Meghan is that if things were going bad, they'd have to make the stories about the royal family more and more outrageous to get the same level of attention. And when they do that, you inevitably end up in a situation where you outright lied. And it's just totally debunked. A lot of things have already been debunked, absolutely. But they'll maybe say something even wilder, and everybody's sitting there going, what are you talking about? And William Morris and Endeavor, I'm sure as well, are putting a lot of pressure on Meghan Markle right now, because she just signed with them, and she, in her relaunch effort, immediately pulled a very stupid stunt publicly, basically wrecking her credibility nationwide, worldwide, by telling everybody she got into a paparazzi chase, a high-speed, near catastrophic paparazzi chase in Manhattan, which absolutely nobody believes. And because of that, I'm sure William and Morris Endeavor are scrambling to find somebody willing to take on Harry and Meghan, because what was key in all the details about the Spotify collapse as well is that they don't have somebody to pick them up. That nobody was buying into Archetype season 2. They're like, well, we want to take our audience. And Spotify's like, what audience? You don't have an audience. Your audience is like this. And it should be like this for us to keep going with this. Harry and Meghan's narcissistic, delusional bubble has burst. And now there have to be an outright survival mode. And I think the same extends to their marriage as well. I can't imagine that things are good at home. Harry is in all his court cases. Things are getting dredged up, and his narrative is being publicly challenged on the stand, and he doesn't know how to respond. And Meghan Markle, they've lost Spotify. Archetypes is dead. Their next Netflix series may bomb. They don't have a relationship with his family. He's lost all his relationships with his friends back in the UK for the most part. Everything is collapsing around them, and they are stuck in this survival mode. Meanwhile, the people they disparaged, the people they threw under the bus, the people they tried to tear down are thriving because they've stayed above the melee, and they're going forward, and the world is behind them. Tens of thousands of people, perhaps even hundreds of thousands of people, went to the mile to watch the fly past, to watch the royal family, to see them. And that will always continue. Harry and Meghan's sideshow, people watch them to watch them destroy themselves. They're in it for the car crash mentality, to see the disaster that they've made their lives. And that is only going to continue. And it's exemplified by that terrible paparazzi stroll Meghan did earlier today, trying to steal the limelight from the royals. Now, she was the leading story, but it was mostly people going, pointing and laughing and going, that's the woman who thought she was better than the royal family. And yeah, she is not. Not only is she not thriving as she claimed she wanted to be, she is just surviving, and the people she tried to destroy are just walking over her, metaphorically speaking, because Meghan Markle made the crucial mistake of believing she was better than the royals, that she was the ultimate royal, and the world has told her to her face that no, she's not, and she doesn't have much of a future in Hollywood, I would believe. And her and Harry's best bet is to lick their wounds, pack things up, and try to find actual jobs. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.